All right, two blokes I like very much, and they join us right now. Ross Goodell, who's in Darwin right now, of course, Senator for the Nats, representing New South Wales, and a man who, well, I think, can I say it, got here on a motorbike, and I'm very impressed with it. There's none other than Darren Barnett. Hello, sir.
We're still body doubling, Paul. Yeah. The fines are going to get sent to your place.
All right, fine, I'll pay them for you. Why are you in Darwin, Ross?
Part of the Regional Rural Affairs Committee, we had an inquiry into regional aviation, so we're up here hearing some of the stories about how some of the things you were talking about with the loss of Sharon, regional communities and the things that we need to do to close the gap so they can get health services. I think it was a very interesting hearing and still a long way to go.
Yeah, so damn heartbreaking. All right, let's talk about this Royal Commission. Darren, I have never heard of a Royal Commission that has been able to deliver an interim report, firstly this quickly, but secondly, without a single day of public evidence, which means, I think, that we're starting to see the process the Prime Minister wanted to play out, which was, look, yes, there's that awful thing that happened in Bondi. Quick, get that out of the way, and then we'll let people in. Not to talk about what happened in Bondi, but let's get into the overall issues of anti-Semitism. There's literally going to be hearings about definitions of it. Then we're going to move into the broader issues of social cohesion, all of which gets the government, frankly, off the hook very quickly. Have you ever seen a Royal Commission that's delivered a report without a single witness in the box?
I'm going to defend the government here, and I don't think the interim report is anywhere near what the full report will be. Mm-hmm. And I say this as someone that I've lived in Bondi for 20 years, I was 100 metres from the, 200-ish metres from the shootings when they happened. The local community will not rest without proper answers, I can guarantee you that, and that's Jewish and non-Jewish parts of the 100%. Community. So I know a couple of people locally who are working on the Royal Commission. They won't let things slide. So I think that by the time we get the full report, people will have been heard and things will have been taken seriously. So that I have very full confidence in that full report. Today there were a couple of small bits about information sharing and firearms, I think, but the key is what happens in December when they hand it down and what the government does as a result. And I think we have to wait and see what happens.
Ross, I mean, what's the old adage? You don't call an inquiry unless you know what the conclusion of it is going to be. This government is phenomenally good at being able to manage their risk exposure to something that they can't control. Originally, it was all going to be Dennis Richardson behind the scenes. Dennis Richardson, of course, folded into the Royal Commission after the Prime Minister had to have it. But I'm going to ask the same question again. Have you ever heard of a Royal Commission that was able to produce a piece of paper, let alone an interim report, without a single day of public hearings?
No, never. Strangely, I won't be defending the government on this one. It was a Royal Commission they never wanted. It was one they were dragged to because of public pressure and pressure from every other aspect of the Parliament other than themselves. The timing of this handing down is not coincidental. It's a week before budget comes down that they're trying to bury the news. And what came out of it was not everything we wanted to see, but even the response, the Prime Minister today, none of the settings hindered the response. Governments should do better than just not hinder protecting Australian people. We should be helping and making sure it's done. Chris Minns summed it up beautifully. The role of a government is to keep its people safe, and in this we failed. Well, and at least he has the insight to say that. But what's Albo doing on that? I mean, where is his insight as to the contribution and the slow sitting by and watching anti-Semitism build because it helped their politics? There has to be more than this. It is not good enough.
Well, again, what's frightening is if some people are able to conclude here, well, nothing could be done, there was no way that anything could have been prevented here. Well, substitute a beach for a shopping centre, substitute the Jewish community for a local soccer team. Like that's...
You don't have to get... You made it Bondi Junction shopping centre, and a year earlier we had stabbings that killed a number of local people. Where I live should be one of the safest places in the world.
Absolutely.
People are worried. I've got a 13-year-old daughter who spends her time at the beach or the junction, and I have to wonder where she is. Government's 100% right, Chris Minns and Ross, that keeping people safe, people don't feel safe, they need to get it right.
All right. Now, it is very obvious that the war in Iran is going to have the consequences that it has had around the world, particularly when it comes to petrol. The flow on of the petrol is going to have its issues when it comes to inflation. But Australia had a higher rate of inflation than the US, the UK, Canada and New Zealand before all of this, and that was why we were getting interest rate rises in the first place. The government, of course, is going to do everything they can to say that any of their failures Americas, nothing to do with us. But again, these are the numbers right now, current rates of inflation, okay? Japan's doing an incredible job. I don't understand how the US and the UK aren't being whacked. Oh, that's right. They had lower rates before all of this as well. And here's the Treasurer with the word that we'll hear plenty between now and the budget about why the budget deficit will be bigger than they planned, one of budget deficits for the next 40 years, according to the intergenerational report that he also released.
The tick up in the monthly headline data today was driven by the conflict, and this war could drive inflation up even higher. Pressures we're getting from around the world because of these international developments. We've seen the war play out in headline inflation today. The Australian economy is not immune from all of this global uncertainty. Australians are paying a really hefty price for this war in the Middle East, substantial amount of global economic upheaval. The pressures that we're seeing from the Middle East, these inflationary pressures coming from the war in the Middle East, Australians are paying a hefty price for the war in the Middle East. Inflation go up because of the war in the Middle East. Australians are paying the costs and consequences of this war.
You notice that wasn't an awful lot of date jumping. There was 2 locations in one day, and you heard that. So the old advisor in you, obviously, the government
never waste a good crisis, Paul. Would be the first.
So I get and I understand the impact, and there's no part of me that since the day this happened doesn't understand what it is. But the joint was already pretty hot before it started off, and we are now in a position that seems to be, compared to others, worse when it comes to inflation. But is that one of those things that only people paying attention notice?
I think what people will notice is that we're 4 years into what is going to be a 6 and quite possibly a 9-year government.
Yep.
I think it's time to put some things on the table and people can make their mind up if they're good or bad. I'm just not convinced that they've done enough over 4 years. So whether it's significant NDIS reform or whatever, it's up to them what they do.
Yeah.
But I think people are ready for some big decisions to be made. And the government needs to do that in order to give confidence to turn 6 years into 9.
I don't disagree, but the way that they got their 6 years was by pretending, that Ross, you and your mob was going to cut everything, remember? They cut, you pay, that you destroy the NDIS, all of that. Of course, we wouldn't do anything when it comes to negative gearing. It does matter what is said before an election, but it seems to be this scenario of just get through today. Doesn't matter if we gaslight, doesn't matter if we're BS, doesn't matter if it's proven to be wrong. It's proven as long as we keep the majority of the media on our side, or the extreme majority. They'll go out and essentially be stenographers for us. The opposition, well, keep them in their little box, don't talk about it, and roll on and keep going on with the power. But again, I noticed today that Claire O'Neill, the housing minister, is, among other things, blaming Iran for why they're not going to actually hit their target, which was set by this government, in government, about how many new homes they'd build. But, of course, it won't affect the number of people they're bringing into the country, will it?
No, not at all. And there's always these reasons, and Darren's exactly right on don't waste a crisis. But if you're driving a banged-up jalopy down the road and someone comes out and bangs your fender, they're not the one that ruins the car. They're already spending too much. They're already missing their targets on building houses. All of these things going on. They're just pointing out what's happened and hoping some people will buy it and some people will. But I don't hold out great hope for this budget. This is... they've shown to be addicted to spending to be popular, because if they take, half of your wage, half of Darren's, half of mine, if they take that of, 15% of the population, 20% to do that, and spread it around to 40% of the population, that's better for them. This is what they do. We have to get over these short-term fixes and sugar hits, and we have to stop blaming people. I don't know how Iran's going to stop making houses, other than the fact we can't build them because there's no poly pipe, because we're energy dependent on Russia and the Middle East for these sorts of products, in China, or how we're not going to get the glue to build kitchens anymore. Those things might fix it, but that's always been in Australia's remit. If we had those industries, if we had self-sustainability, it wouldn't be a problem. We are here because we are weak, and that has to change.
Before I get to winners and losers, I just want to put something on the table, not to debate, but just for people to see where public opinion is right now, and that is when it comes to the race towards renewables. How fast, how slow, or how not at all? Again, Turnbull Times, their opinion polling via the Essential organisation, they show us here, dark blue, 23% of people say that Australia should move quickly as quickly as possible to get to renewable energy. 38%, the biggest number here, say that Australia should move to renewable energy, but at a steady pace. That's also the position that's a majority of Labor voters.
I'll be in there.
Australia should slow down its shift to renewable energy, 9%. 20% say we should shift away. We should not shift away from coal, oil, gas. And then there's 10% that are in the don't know area. I put all that on the table again because I always want people to know what's actually going on, not just what we may argue over the barbecue this weekend. So, winner or loser this week? Who stands out for you, Darren?
I'm going to say Angus Taylor with one caveat. You can't have a beer on your own.
All right,
but I think he had a good week with the fuel stuff, and I think he's made himself relevant for the first time in quite a while.
Yep.
And the noise was not necessarily about One Nation. He actually put himself in the cycle, so he gets it.
There you go. Look at that. What about you for calling the balls and strikes? Well done, Darren. That's why we love you. All right, Ross.
Biggest winner's going to be Pauline. got a new Jabberoo, great Jabberoo, and Gina, if you're watching, my favourite colour's green.
Okay, thank you guys. Do appreciate it. We'll see you again.